wasn't here for the first one, and Jim wasn't here for the second.
Okay. I have a prayer today for mighty Lord, you give us courage. You are my rock. I put my confidence in you. I come to you today positioning myself to hear you and obey you. Thank you, Lord, for bringing me new boldness and courage. You have provided miraculous steps for me this day. I will take one remarkable step of faith after another. Worry and fear will flee from me. Thank you that you are giving us great power to do great things today. Amen.
Amen.
Jerry, will start us off. Oh, the minutes. Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes of the meeting of June 8th.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spillier.
Abstain.
Yes.
Commissioner Lennon. Commissioner DeWart.
Yes. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes for the meeting of June 15th.
Make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spillier.
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon.
Yes.
Commissioner DeWart.
Abstain.
On June 24th, for maintenance, I approved hiring Tammy Kuhn to the position of full-time administrative coordinator to be effective July 12th, 2021, at the rate of $16.08 per hour for the one-year probationary period. Offer of employment is contingent upon the successful completion of the required pre-employment conditions.
Okay.
Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning. Today's financials include an appropriations transfer from the Commissioner's Contingency Transfers Out account to the Coroner Contract Services account to cover the charges for additional autopsies needed so far this year, and an appropriations transfer from the Commissioner's Miscellaneous Transfers Out account to the Clerk of Court's other expense account for a reimbursement check that was deposited into the general fund. Among the encumbrances are 2 travels, one from the juvenile court to send 24 employees and volunteers to the Ohio CASA conference, and one from transit to attend the Transit Peer Conference. And there's a purchase order from Water Resources to R.W. Sidley for a 2021 Mack Granite 64 FR cab and chassis, and the Safety Company LLC for a 4,200 gallon aluminum vacuum truck body. Both items were able to be purchased on state bid pricing. And among the vouchers are $54,591.96 from the engineer's office to Aeromark Incorporated for polyester pavement markings at various county road locations, and $22,983.52 from Water Resources to Glaus, Pyle, Schomer, Burns, and DeHaven Incorporated for services related to the Chardon Township wastewater treatment plant and sewer collection system. And there's 2 certifications, revenue certifications, one from the Board of DD and one from Transit for additional revenue to be received this year.
Okay. Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spillier.
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWart.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We're doing tax budget today?
Yes,
Review?
10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
Airport Authority?
Rick is not here today. This is an acknowledgement of a request by the FAA under their fiscal year 2021 Airport Improvement Program grant application that you had previously approved for the property acquisition of the Hodgins and the Ford properties. The FAA has requested a survey for a revised inventory map of the airport property. So they are requesting to increase the grant application amount to cover the cost of that inventory map by $42,800 from the original request of $466,845 to $509,645, with no local matches being covered by the FAA.
Okay. Great.
Is there a motion, please?
What are we getting for $42,000? What exactly is this inventory map?
It's a full-scale survey of all the properties, putting the map together. Basically just verifying that the properties that they own are what they think they own.
Okay, you're all clear.
And they don't have that on their plan already? Like as far as,
It's something that what they have is old, so they're asking for an update, especially with the new properties being added in.
Plus 2 with the Ventolin property being added. That's not included on the inventory map, because that was just on last year.
and who's doing that?
Like Baker Who is their,
They're, what, it is. There's something that's already pretty much done other than adding a little bit. I'll make that motion, but I'll talk to Rick also this afternoon to just kind of proof that up, just to make sure.
okay,
Okay, second?
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Mr. Lundey?
Aye.
Mr. DeWitt?
Yes. Engineer's office. Morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Hi, Nick.
The item on the agenda is requesting the board award the bid to Perk Company Incorporated for the asphalt resurfacing of Bass Lake Road sections A through C in Newberry Township. That's the section from 87 to Butternut. And the amount of $557,452.90 as they represented the lowest and best bid. We did receive 3 bids, 2 were awardable. So
Good. Yeah, they haven't been out here for a while, right, Perk?
it's been a while. They're actually
Yeah.
currently doing work in Bainbridge and Auburn, so they have been awarded a couple jobs with us.
Very good. Okay,
I'll make that motion.
second.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Mr. Lundey?
Yes.
Mr. DeWitt?
Yes.
Thank you.
I gotta
Thanks.
tell you, they're doing a great job there and, managing traffic and everything. Auburn is, thought that would have been a little bit of a nightmare, but it's been pretty good.
A little bit different. This is Ryan from MR&R. We have a special item on the agenda. So.
Yes.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good.
We're seeking execution of a mutual release and settlement agreement to resolve some litigation
Yep.
stemming from the County Line Road reconstruction project that was jointly shared between Honey Valley and Valentine. If you have any questions relating to it, it's a pretty standard release. Typically, we don't do these mutual, but plaintiff's counsel was seeking that be done, so here we are.
Okay. And which, just for clarification, which property is this?
This was a property belonging to Dr. Alan Denzine.
Okay. And is there still a settlement out there? There's one that's still, there's a case that hasn't been settled yet? Is that right? Is there still a piece of property?
My understanding from talking to Susan.
There is another agreement that's in play. There's some pieces, parts that still
Which
need to be
separate from this?
completed. Yeah, totally separate.
Okay.
And Joe's,
Joe has already signed off on the agreement. So,
Very good.
your motion, please?
I'll make it.
Second.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Mr. Lundey?
Yes.
Mr. DeWitt?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely. Take those today so we can get the,
So we'll sign these now.
yes,
Okay.
and then we'll get them copies on it and that, so yeah, I'll go with that.
Right here.
Yeah.
That project's complete, right, Nick?
punch list items remain, so, but it's, hopefully it will actually be completed, the punch list will be completed today.
Okay.
From what we understand.
Where do you want me to sign here?
It's just Jim.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Right there's Dickies.
yeah, that's right.
This was the item that we had set aside from last week because George, the judge, had not signed the actual grant agreement for the amendment. So that has been revised, and I have his signature on the amendment to their DYS grant that they're asking for. They're shifting funds around within the grant. It's not an increase.
This is for 7?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Mr. Lennon?
Yes.
Mr. DeWitt?
Yes. Yep. So that was seven. Department on Aging.
One in.
Morning, Jessica.
Good morning. So the first thing on the agenda is it's an upgrade of our client database and service tracking system. We do have an older software version that's no longer supported, so this is moving to the cloud hosting. This contract is a state contract, so the Ohio Department on Aging, they do use WellSky. This is their contract, and we are adopting their terms and conditions for that. ADP had a special meeting this morning, and the board did approve that, so I'd like to thank them for making that happen. This was done rather quickly while we've been mulling over this contract for, it's just been a couple years. They were finally able to get back to me with a question on terms that both Laura and Jerry, had a concern about. And in doing such, they informed me that the end of their fiscal year is tomorrow. And they were willing to take $37,400 off of the upgrade if we could get this contract done by tomorrow. So it went from $66,463 down to $29,063 for this year.
Nice.
And they were going to charge us the full bid, but they did cut that off if we could get that sale done by the end of their year. Moving forward, each person who has access to my client's system, there's a per user fee and hosting fee. So we're probably looking next year at about $37,000 for the year, and then it'll probably be around $30,000. But we're so fortunate they were not charging any of these user fees and the setup fees for this year because they wanted to get this moving forward. So thanks to everyone's quick action to save the taxpayers almost $40,000.
That's great.
Yes.
And this, I would assume ADP this morning in their review, this marries up with our network and we're okay. Everybody was
Because this has
satisfied
been a
with that.
multi-year project, both Alan Keener and Al Von Torsig have looked at it, and at one point they did have a special meeting with the technology team at WellSky just to talk their server language and what they need to do with our current client information to get it upgraded, because we can't lose anything that we have, and we have to make sure it transfers appropriately, and those discussions were had. I don't know if Chuck or Ron, if you wanted to add anything.
Well, the current technology of WellSky is hard server based, so we house it here. That technology is the obsolete system. So this is, the advantage of this is we're moving into the cloud, which has been determined to be a secure domestic cloud. It will remove the county's liability of protecting that server from attacks, and it places it in the hands of a third party who has that means to secure that environment.
Okay.
So this is the wave of the future. Cloud-based technology is where we're all headed, provided it's domestic and it's secure. So this matches both of those criteria.
And there is one provision that we did make, at least for this first year, is backing up our data. So there is going to be like data backup in case something would happen to this company and their cloud server, we didn't lose everything. So there will be a data backup on the order form. If we decide we want to change that moving forward, if we feel more comfortable, if that's something we don't want to do, we can address that. But initially, that's what we're going to start with.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second?
Mr. Spiller?
Aye.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. DeWart?
Yes.
Thank you.
The second thing I have, we do have an employee, and we are asking you to approve an extension of paid administrative leave for her through July 9th.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Spiller?
Aye.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. DeWart?
Yes.
Thank you all so
Awesome.
much.
Good job.
Okay. Economic Development.
Hey,
Good morning, Mark.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Dave's letting you run solo now.
Yeah, it looks like it. So item 10 today, the Department of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board grant permission to re-advertise for bids for the Maple Leaf Residences project to be held on Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 at 2:30 p.m. Notice of this bid opening will be advertised on July 2nd and July 9th and on the county website.
Very good.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Spiller?
Aye.
Mr. Lemon?
Yes.
Mr. DeWart?
Yes.
Next item, the Department of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board award a proposal to Millstone Management Group for the Women's Safe Project in the amount of $34,500 as they represented the lowest and best proposal, and further authorize the president of the board to execute the notice of award.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Spiller?
Aye.
Mr. Lemon?
Aye.
Mr. DeWart?
Yes. And what exactly is the job that's going to be doing?
For Women's Safe?
Yeah.
That project is for their, what they call their Rose Closet. It's a storage facility on the back of the property. It's about the size of like a 3-car garage, and that's where they store all their donated items.
Okay.
And it just needs to be, needs some interior work and organization. And it helps with the environmental conditions of the property too.
Very good. Thanks for the details.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good day.
Have a good one.
You too.
Maintenance? Good morning. Anything exciting happened this weekend, or? Everything's good, right?
Just like I like it.
No, we had that power outage down there. Found it on the fence line of the engineer's office and Jaga Trumbull site. There was a butt splice in the ground.
Yeah.
So it could have been rain, it could have been a number of factors. So vehicles driving over where they put the new, pulled it a little bit, but it was found. So it got corrected, and I think everything was back up and running. I talked to, just to confirm with Do It, I know we lost a couple pieces of equipment, so I think he was checking to make sure. He wasn't for sure on a couple other things, but it's looking like it's all back up and going good, so.
From what I understand, that line is only 18 inches below grade.
Yeah, it's.
Can it be designed a little bit better or encapsulated, or?
It's a fine line between CEI, so, but I'm thinking about maybe getting out there and putting some poles or getting something to somehow mark that, because they did mound it up a little bit more out there, so, which is a good thing. But we'll see how it goes. I was out there, I talked to the contractors first thing yesterday morning, going, hey, this is what happened on the site, blah, 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 so watch your excavating stuff on that. So, number 12 is Diane Dawson. She's been with the county for about 25 years. She started here in the commissioner's office and was doing the budgeting here for us. Approximately 13 years ago, she came over there. Been a great asset all the way around for the county and everything. So, between Hannah, Diane leaving, and I got probably about 2 or 3 more getting ready to retire by the end of the year. So, yes.
So do you have a game plan here to fill these seats?
With Diane, we just hired Sue, as
Yeah.
you all know.
Yeah.
So Hannah creeped up on us, so we just hired that person too, Tammy. So Tammy starts next week. Sue's been with us for about 2 weeks now, so I think we're in the right direction.
You still have a position out there too, that's not filled, right?
Correct.
It's looking to the future.
Yes.
For
the next ones that are gonna come.
Would that be a fiscal specialist or?
No,
No.
No, the fiscal specialist was
Sue.
Sue, that we
Yeah.
hired, and Tammy was gonna,
Administrative coordinator.
Okay.
yeah, it's gonna be Hannah's replacement, and then the other ones that he was talking about that are coming up by the end of the year.
Okay.
So the position out there is.
It's a maintenance position and janitor position, so.
Good stuff.
But since we took that janitor in-house, I think that's really helped all the departments a whole lot more than what we have.
She's not here today, Diane, is she?
No,
No.
she is.
Always making it work.
She's working.
Yeah, Diane hates being in the public and
Yeah.
coming in, so.
We'll tell
She
her
is-
we thank her for her time here.
So.
We appreciate that.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spillier.
Aye.
Commissioner Levin.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWark.
Hi.
Y'all have a good day.
Thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Steve.
We have 3 items today, 13, 14, and 15. Number 13, Water Resources is requesting the board approve and authorize Mr. Dvorak, Chief Executive Officer, to execute the OPWC Appendix E disbursement request form and certification number 4 for the Chardon Township Sewer Project in the amount of $62,434.60.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Spillier.
Aye.
Commissioner Levin.
Aye.
Commissioner DeWark.
Yes.
Number 14, Water Resources, requesting the board approve and execute the quitclaim deed between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and Rodney R. Ziegler, Pamela A. Ziegler, in regards to permanent parcel number 25-704085, located at 16125 Main Market Road, Parkland Township.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Spillier.
Aye.
Commissioner Levin.
Yes.
Commissioner DeWark.
Yes. Now, their property is contiguous with this property, right? Okay.
Well, we have permanent easement on that property with our lift station.
Okay.
That should be settled up very shortly now. And then number 15, Water Resources requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board or the county administrator, if the president of the board is unavailable, to execute any and all closing documents related to the sale of permanent parcel 25-704085, again located at 16125 Main Market Road, Parkman Township.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Spillier.
Aye.
Mr. Lemon.
Yes.
Mr. Nordhook.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you,
Okay.
Steve.
Thanks for coming in.
Enjoyable. Bye.
The next item is the approval of the partial payment number 8 for Conley's on the new building.
Yep.
An amount of $1,726,007.04.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Spillier.
Aye.
Mr. Lemon. Mr. Moore.
Yes.
And I have still the budget here, so if you want to skip down and go to 18.
Okay, we'll look at 18.
That is the reappointment of Mr. O'Brien to the Board of Mental Health and Recovery Services for a 4-year term.
I'll make the motion on that.
Second.
Mr. Spillier.
Aye.
Mr. Lemon.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes. Number 19.
I haven't reviewed all those positions or the applicants yet for the library board. Have you?
Well, there's only 3.
There is?
They kind of,
Okay.
on paper,
Okay.
you know.
I saw the first one, I think.
They were all attached in the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So one of them was sent directly to the library, and then was forwarded to us. The other 2 came directly into this office.
Okay.
I moved to table 19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you.
And hopefully, you know, do more research on it from now till next meeting.
Yeah, but it's important. This is a 7-year appointment. You
Yeah.
have to have somebody good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't just rush into that.
Okay.
The other item is on there is for the, to appoint Mr. Morgan with alternates, Mr. Kajar and Mr. DeVore, with alternate Mr. Morgan to the OPWC District 7 Integrated Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Spillier.
Aye.
Mr. Lemon.
Yes.
Mr. DeVore.
Yes.
Chrissy, you know when the how public works meeting is?
Well, now that these are done, now I can let Shane know, and usually it's in July.
Especially
July.
the skin.
It's usually in July.
Okay.
Do you want to do the other item? We have 3 minutes. While Adrian's on his way here, it's up to you.
Yeah, let's just wait that up.
Well, that's kind of what I was like, wasn't sure what you wanted to do.
So we're waiting for the,
Waiting for
But
you.
Adrian's the budget
okay.
presentation. And this is, it is,
Yes, those are the minutes. The first one was Ralph was absent, the second one you were absent, so.
I don't sign this, but I sign this one.
And then.
This is all my stuff.
Yes. And Adrian is here. So the tax budget hearing is scheduled for 10 o'clock. So in preparation of that, we have a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Spillier.
Aye.
Mr. Lemon.
Yes.
Mr. DeVore.
Yes.
You don't sign that.
What time do you have?
At 9:59.
Okay. Wait, 1 more minute for Adrian.
Yeah. Make it official.
Yes.
That's right.
Commissioners, you may want to come down and sit down on the board.
Okay. And they can sit on the floor.
Any popcorn?
No, they can use those two chairs or pull one of their chairs down.
Just sit on the floor.
Can we have my chair?
Yeah.
Not on the podium.
Make them sit on the floor.
Indian style.
I'm not usually in the way, so I usually stay.
I'll stay at Jim's chair.
Okay, yeah.
How you doing, Howard? Hey, how are you? You guys got all the comfortable seats, now I understand why people keep coming back.
It's not too bad. I know yesterday it's like
It's not like projecting on the wall like we used to.
when you had it off the floor.
We're on a fixed budget here. We don't want to have,
We'll go ahead and get started at 10 o'clock here. This is the annual tax budget presentation. Adrian and Debbie have spent a number of hours putting this together. So at this point, turn it over to Adrian to explain the 2022, it's hard to say, tax budget.
Yeah.
Lots of twos.
Lots of twos.
Just that it's already going to be 2022.
Well, welcome everyone here to the tax budget presentation for next year. Thank you, commissioners, for all your support and input and everything that you've done to get us to this point. Also want to recognize Auditor Walder's in the room here too, so I kind of feel like a student putting a presentation on in front of the teacher, you know. So, so we'll go ahead and get started. As many of you know, this is kind of like the preliminary budget for next year. This is what the state uses also to determine some of our funding from them as well. This is all the departments in the county with the exception of the health department, the parks, and solid waste. So they all do their budgets outside this process. So just to get started, the total 2022 tax budget for all those departments, with the exception of those three that I said, for next year is $126 million. This is approximately $3.7 million or 2.6 more than the 2021 adopted budget. This is due in large part to the county budgeting for debt service in the county facility bond retirement and the general fund, as well as capital project funds, including the Chardon Township wastewater treatment plant construction fund. In addition to those, there were some increases in the Commissioner's capital reserve. We budgeted about $400,000 for that. We started out this year in 2021 with nothing in there, so that's why there was an increase in there. Airport construction increased about $365,000. The engineer maintenance fund about $392,000. Real estate assessment $155,000. Public assistance $289,000. Concealed handgun licenses about $297,000. They really had to do a lot of budget changes because they've had a lot of people coming out to get concealed carry licenses. Mental health added some programs and different stuff. There's one up about $545,000, and water resources about $264,000. Now all those funds are outside of the general fund, which we're going to be focusing on here, and most were offset by additional revenues increases to cover those expenses. There are also some notable decreases in this budget, including $3.3 million in the road and bridge fund, which had to be reduced to zero due to their levy being on the ballot in November. Also, Metzenbaum Residential Services in the amount of about $1.3 million, and also about $1.8 million in the Metzenbaum fund itself as they continue to restructure that facility. So the general funds portion is $37.6 million. The general fund increased by about 3.3 million in the 2022 tax budget. versus what was adopted as the permanent appropriations back in December. The largest portion of this increase is due to the debt service payments for the bonds that were sold to finance the construction of the new county office building. And we'll break down the general fund expenses a little further on in the presentation. As you see, I have the net at 33.6 after you take out some of our operational transfers, which total about $4 million. Now, those operational transfers cover items like our emergency or contingency transfers, 911 funding, the 800 megahertz system, court technology, capital projects, debt service, grant matches, public assistance, family first, community development, and various reimbursements. The 1.9 million of requests that remain to be funded, that's about 1 million in our contingency, operational, and capital transfers out accounts. 335 is associated with personnel-related expenses, including about 135,000 in maintenance for new building personnel, and 199,000 for elections that they requested for midterm elections coverage. There's 560,000 of equipment requests, including 250,000 for replacement sheriff vehicles, 168,000 for maintenance for new tractors and utility vans, and 142,000 from elections for new poll pads and high-speed letter opener, and 165,000 for additional building services and supplies. And a lot of those we're kind of waiting to see how the new building shakes out and what we're going to need in addition to what we already have. So we'll go ahead and take a look next at the revenue that we're expecting, and I'll turn it over to Debbie Ashburn.
So as Adrian said earlier, the revenue for the general fund next year is estimated about $33.6 million, and we have an increase in that over 21 by 2.1 million. And the reasons for that, one, the property tax is up. We're estimating at $866,000. The property taxes, the property values were updated in 2020, and with low mortgage rates continuing, higher new construction costs, and then we still have a tight supply of the existing homes on the market. Those things all contribute to the increase of the home values that we currently have, and which increase the amount of taxes that we'll be collecting. Other things, second is the sales tax. It seems to continue an upward trend, so we're estimating about $750,000. Property tax transfer, they've eliminated that, or on exempt. Can you explain that a little bit, Jerry?
Some of that is the homestead exemption for this property tax, for the transfer tax that we eliminated last year because it was not benefiting the party that the homestead was supposed to, was benefiting the person who was buying the house. So that was an increase to the funds.
And then a couple other things, the reimbursement for the public defenders for indigent cases. A couple years ago, we were sitting at about a reimbursement from the state of about 46%. Last year, it went up to about 80%, and now we're looking at hopefully going to 100% reimbursement from the state.
Currently, in the budget bill for next year, it's set at 100%. Whether that's going to come out when the conference committee puts out the final is not known, but they'll at least stay at the 80% that they're doing. But it could be 100%.
And then there's a little bit more coming in from the casinos. A couple of slight decreases. In the prisoner housing, it's down a little bit. It seems to be trending downward since January, so we've decreased that. And the interest rates are still low, so the interest income is also down a little bit. So overall, the money that comes to the general fund, or comes to the county actually, is still the major source is sales tax, and that's about 46. It's almost half of the money that we receive, and the real estate property taxes, those two things combined make up about 72% of all the income. So we have this The extra 28 are small ones, in case you can't read them in the back. I'm just going to leave them for you. So we have the department fees and fines, the property transfer tax, other things. Those are the like rent of real estate or reimbursements to the county, casino tax, prisoner housing, cost allocation, the local government taxes and interest income. So in looking at the sales tax, which we receive almost half of our income from, I put this chart together last year just so we could start seeing the trends over the years and how the sales tax is moving. So I just wanted to point out, it's how it's been growing every year over the past 5 years. So in 2016. We were looking at 14.5 mil, and all the way up to 2020, we're now receiving about 17.2, and we're still on the rise. So one thing I did want to point out, though, is the red line. That's 2020, and in these two areas here, this is where we shut down last year. And then this is where we opened. So it's been steadily on the rise and continuing to rise this year, in the early parts of this year.
It's important to note that the bar graphs on here represent the month in which those sales tax were generated, not necessarily when the county received it, because we received the money from the state a couple of months later, right, after it was
There's
actually
a 3-month
generated.
gap. So if the money that was collected in March is actually sent to the state in April, and then May they start to distribute, to figure out the distribution, and then in June, that's when we would be receiving the March money. So we just received the March information this month.
And do you know where Jog County falls with that 6 3/4% tax as far as on average with the rest of the state?
Yeah, because, well, out of the 88 counties, there are only 4 counties that are below the 6.75, and there's 70 counties above it. So we are right in that. There's about, I think we're amongst like 14 counties, I think, that are still in that, close to that 6.75 range.
Good.
The one thing too that we're benefiting from is with the sales tax is in the 2020 state budget, they implemented the online sales tax into that, so we've seen some benefit from that. They haven't
Commerce.
Yeah, they haven't. The state in their numbers that they release hasn't broken that portion out. It's still in their regular sales tax. So there's nothing that we're able to look at and say this additional came from there. So one of our kind of concerns as we're looking at those sales tax and just keeping it is how much of that bump up is from the stimulus funds, the CARES fund, or not the CARES funds, but the money that was distributed to the individuals. One of the things I always like to point out too with the sales tax is that's not all coming from Geauga County residents. With the retail the way it has grown up in the county, being kind of on the corners, there's a lot of out-of-county residents who are coming in and purchasing that, paying that sales tax. So it's a nice benefit for kind of the county residents see that benefit of the sales tax being charged to out-of-county residents.
And I think, some of the new development going on, down in Bainbridge that's on the horizon, you'll see some more bump than that with some of the big box stores going in down there.
Yes.
And another thing too, of the 6.75%, right off the top, 5.75% goes to the state. So the income that you're seeing to the county is only 1% of all sales tax collected. So switching over to property tax, looking at for every dollar, and this is an average, about 20.6 cents of every dollar goes to Geauga County for their funding. And this is an average based on your on the tax districts in the county. So the portion that the homeowners actually pay depends on where they live.
It could go up or down.
Could go up or down from
that,
what the
depending on,
Mhm.
yeah.
So of that, this is how much we're receiving from Geauga County. The biggest user is the school districts, and then the other things, the other remaining few cents are going to the joint vocational school district and cities, townships, villages, and the 3.3 cents to the library.
So this next slide's gonna show how that 20.6 cents is broken
Yeah,
down.
so now we're gonna take this piece of the pie and break it down. So of that 20.6 cents, the blue, the general fund receives 4.3 cents, and that covers all its operations. The rest of all these green slices, these are tax levies that the residents voted into place. So mostly out of that 20.6 cents is going to be the elected, the voted and yes. So aside from the general fund, then you've got the developmental disabilities, the park, the children's services, mental health, roads and bridges levy, and then the senior citizens levy in the health district.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of a historical reference for what the revenue collection has been from 2012 on through the estimated 2022. And as you can see, we do like to budget our revenues as conservatively as possible without causing any undue stress on the budget. But this is an effective way to try and control the amount of spending that's related to that budgeted revenue. So, and also allows us to protects us from surprises, which we do have occasionally. So this is something called available resources. So when we look at our budget, we look at what our unencumbered carryover balance is, and then what our calendar year revenue is budgeted for. And that gives us our total resources. So when we're looking at the budget for next year, those total resources is the number that we do not want to exceed as far as our expenses are concerned. So you can see our unencumbered carryover balance has fluctuated a little bit over the last few years. We started out this year, 2021, with about 11.3. and with calendar year revenue of 31.5 for total resources of 42.8 for next year. We're estimating that unencumbered carryover balance to be about 10.9, which is actually the average over the last 4 years, and the calendar year revenue of 33.6. So we have total resources of 44.5 million, which is about 2.1 more than what we have from the previous year. So as I said at the beginning, the 33.6 is net of the transfers that we send to various departments for their operations. Now this is after those transfers, this 33.6 million is 448,000, or 1.3% less than what the 2021 amended budget was. So some key assumptions that we had in the budget for next year. Again, we were requesting all the departments to budget no wage increases for next year. We also did not increase any of the budgets for the county portion of hospitalization. Over the last several years, we've experienced moderate to slight decreases. How that pans out for next year remains to be seen. Any changes in premium the commissioners will need to decide how that gets dispersed, how much the county picks up and how much the employees would have to pay more. We have not changed the employees' co-insurance, their own deductions, for several years, so it's remained consistent. This year, we again also opted to try and reduce the amount of unused appropriations in the expense budget. Over the last, scroll this down, where's my? Typically in the general fund and the county as a whole, we spend on average probably about 85% of our appropriations. This sometimes can make budgeting difficult when about several $1 million for the county overall is not being utilized. There are a number of legitimate reasons for this, but we were just trying to get the departments to take a look at their usage and make informed decisions as to what they really need in their expense accounts. This was somewhat successful last year. Our utilization did increase. So for 2022, again, we reduced 3 categories of expenses. We reduced contract services, materials and supplies, and miscellaneous other expense accounts next year by only 5%. Now, last year for this year, we did 10%. Most reductions, as was the case this year, were not maintained, but a few were, and even some more were reduced by more than the 5%. We're not wanting them to increase their spending, the departments, to their budgeted amount, which is a typical response, but to examine their requests and see if any downward adjustments in the requested appropriations can be justified if year after year they remain unused. So the adjustment was just to get people to look, we're not dictating, that they have to maintain this. We're just wanting them to look at the numbers. So this is a graphical representation of the expenses that the general fund incurs. And as you can see, salaries and hospitalization are a large part of the expenses that the general fund has. As a service, a government organization, that's not unusual. 74% of those expenses are salaries, benefits, and hospitalization. This is up from last year primarily due to the fact that the funding cycle for the new building construction is now closed and those expenses have been reduced, making the more fixed personnel costs a larger part of the overall budget. Salaries, Medicare, and OPERS did increase in the general fund by a little over $600,000 in the 2022 tax budget versus what was approved in the permanent appropriations for this year. This additional payroll was due to Sheriff's Office and their bargaining agreement, maintenance, payroll increases to care for the new building, as well as 470 offices for a short time, and also the Board of Elections request for additional salaries for the 2022 midterm elections. Also, some positions in various departments that became vacant over the last year and a half went unfilled due to the pandemic and are now coming back in the hopes of having them filled by the end of this year. Other expenses included other expenses that increased slightly were legal fees, workers' compensation, utilities, fuel, travel and training and advertising. Other expenses, some that dropped were other expenses including, there were some that dropped, including legal fees, workers' compensation, utility fuels, travel, training, and advertising. Some other dropped significantly. We had a 7.9% drop in those expenses, or $442,000. Contract services, including things like building and grounds maintenance, cleaning and security, it dropped by about $352,000, or 12.4% from 2021. Materials and supplies was reduced by about $142,000, or 19%. And then that equipment line item, 1% of the budget between other materials and supplies, includes, among other things, some of the equipment requested to be used at the new county office building.
On hospitalization, 11%, does that include what the workers pay out of pocket, their share?
No, that's just the county's portion. Yeah. So here is like a breakdown of the general fund expenses by the various categories. So 38.8% is public safety, and that does include the sheriff's, the coroner's office, and the building department. 35.1 of the budget goes to the legislative and executive, which is the other elected officials, including the auditor, treasurer, prosecutor, the commissioners, recorder, as well as the Board of Elections, ADP, planning and maintenance. Judicial is about 16.2% of the budget, includes the courts and the public defender. And the remaining categories down there are relatively small. So you've got the conservation and recreation, which includes OSU extension and soil and water at about 1.6%. Human services, which is the Veteran Service Commission, at about 1.8%. Health for the general fund includes the Bureau for Children with Medical Handicaps requirement that the county fund $0.1 million to treat handicapped children in the county. Major miscellaneous items in the 6.1% or the $2 million there includes the Portage Geauga Joint Juvenile Detention Center, which we budgeted $500,000 for. The Youth Center, which is about $416,000. Our annual insurance liability at about $360,000. Postage at about $180,000. Legal fees, including appointed counsel, at $170,000, and the Court of Appeals at about $66,500. So here's kind of a breakdown of those categories year to year. So as you can see, it pretty much remained the same. A few dropped slightly, and but it's remained pretty consistent. So just to recap, I've mentioned a couple times about the debt service payment for the new county office building. I just kind of wanted to give everybody a look-see at what we actually were able to do. So the first bond issue that we sold for the office building was sold to FHN on December 8th of 2020, and it was a $9.625 million 20-year issue, and we got that at 1.23%. The annual debt service on that bond is about $560,000. The second bond issue, which was sold to UBS, was sold on April 8th of 2021, and that was about a $14.13 million issue. Again, 20-year term at 1.78% and an annual debt service of about $858,000. So the total debt service averages about $1.4 million a year. When we originally did our estimates for this, for financing of the new building, we were looking at different term lengths up to 40 years, and we were in the $1.8 to $1.9 million range. So we definitely, we estimated high and were able to get really good rates. And with some of the savings that we did too out of the general fund, we were able to put a big chunk down on that building without having to finance it. Our initial look at the second bond issue was about $17 million, and we were able to reduce that about $3 million due to some of the savings and different things that we had done to try and make this more affordable for the residents without having to, because that second bond issue was a sales tax backed bond. So our sales tax is paying a majority of that back. So we didn't want to have to increase the sales tax at any point to the residents in order to do this project. So our goal is to try and pay that down as quickly as possible. We have a 5-year call on these bonds. Hopefully the rates remain low and we're able to save some money and refinance this with a large chunk down on the principal. So as we look to the future, as we've indicated here, we want to maintain effective and efficient services for county residents while we transition to the new office building, and that's going to be somewhere in the second quarter probably of next year. We want to remain watchful over the resources that the residents have provided to us, and we continue to look for opportunities to help businesses stay in Geauga County and bring more of them here to provide stability for existing families and incentives for our young people to stay.
Good.
So at this time, I'll open it up for any questions.
What effect does the federal government and the state government, through the COVID and fundings all coming into both the county plus all the municipalities within the county? Is that affected in this in your presentation?
Well, it is from the standpoint of there were a lot of things that the county was able to purchase over the last year that didn't impact the funds that we had. So it was kind of like we were able to do some more spending, but we had the revenue to replace that. So it was kind of a wash. So some of the numbers are a little high, but you're offsetting it with that additional revenue from the COVID relief fund.
One last part of the question: what happens in the future when the federal government and the state governments don't give us any more money, both whether I live in South Russell Village or whether we live in Geauga County?
Right. Well, so the expenses have been conservatively budgeted, and we try and remain conservative on the amount of revenue that we get, so that as that revenue from the federal government or the state dries up or goes away significantly, we're still able to maintain our services that we have, so without a major impact.
Thank you, Ian.
Sorry, and we've kept an eye on that things we weren't getting were not going to cost us down the road of having to, repairs or maintenance more than what we normally already expect.
Great, thanks, Jerry.
Any other questions?
Good job. Good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, Debbie. We don't have no more code.
So with no further questions or comments, we'll close the public hearing for 10:31.
Yeah.
No problem, I'll go.
No doubt.
Good job, Debbie. That's it.
Very nice.
Close the public hearing at 10:31. No other questions or comments?
We need a motion.
Yeah.
Any more items, Jerry?
One additional item, with the Park District, Park Board, filing their paperwork with the auditor's office. My understanding legally, the auditor's office is not allowed to touch the Park Board's funds now. So we have the payment for the health insurance that is paying for June. It's the June payment that was to be set to be cut today or tomorrow. The funds, it's the June payment for the month of June. So it's the insurance that's already been provided to the employees. So what we need to do is have the commissioners direct the auditor to transfer funds from the commissioner's contingency fund to the hospital and dental rotary funds to cover the cost of the missing balance that isn't being able to be transferred, so that we can pay SEPCO the full amount that we owe them for the month of June, and then we will bill the Park District for their portion.
In other words, the Park District will reimburse us for this action?
Correct.
Okay.
Jerry, it's not a transfer, we're paying it out of it, you're paying it out of the groups.
Okay.
You're paying their portion of the health premiums out of the contingency fund. You can't, the Rotary Fund is restricted to employee contributions. So we'll still grab those for the employee contribution portion of the bill, but for the Park District employer component of the bill, the commissioners would have to pay that out of their contingency funds.
Okay. That was not the way I understood the way it happened. And unfortunately, Adrian walked away because he's the one I was talking to yesterday. I thought you guys transferred the funds from everybody's hospitalization into the Rotary Fund and wrote one bill.
No, we don't do that. Traditionally, we pay when people get payroll deduction for their component contributing to healthcare, that money is placed into a Rotary fund. The money that the employer pays is remitted at the time the payment of the bill is paid. What we do is we take a payment out of the Rotary fund representing the employee's portion, and then we debit each line item in every fund that has a benefits line item related to healthcare. So there's 2 transactions that occur. So we don't do a transfer of money into the Rotary fund to pay the bill. We grab from each fund.
Okay.
That's how it's traditionally been done.
Sorry, that was my misunderstanding,
yeah,
I guess, on how that process works.
Yeah, and I was confused too. So, you know, each of us have a hospitalization line item in our various accounts, and they're grabbing from, you know, they're actually paying that bill out of 40, 50, I mean, how many is it?
Lots.
Okay.
How much are we talking, dollars and cents for this transfer?
I thought it was.
It's like about 59,000.
59?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 60.
that's for the month of June's,
Correct.
for just the Park District
Yes.
employees, and there's what, how many employees are there? About,
I think Kelly said there's 46.
46. And so are we just doing this on a handshake, or do we need to memorialize that in a
I think you guys are
MOU?
making a motion.
They have to change it because there was a misunderstanding of, that's why they
Okay.
went and got you. The
Okay.
motion is.
But I mean, is that, because that'll need to be reimbursed from the Park District, correct? And when will that happen?
Well, I can I can create an invoice, I guess, to send to the Park District, and as soon as they get their funds transferred and they can write a check on that, Bridie, the Park District's attorney, assured us that there should be no issue getting reimbursed for that. So,
I mean, you're taking their word for it, then.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
have a.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, do we have
Like a MOU or something?
could they do a resolution, the park commissioners? Or?
I didn't find out about, the Park District originally told us the transfer would happen July 1st in writing. The transfer happened yesterday. We didn't get notice of that until 1:30 in the afternoon. We still have their money because they did not give us all their bank information until about 9:30 this morning. So we're going to transfer approximately $9 million to their banking institution sometime today, but they don't even have their money yet.
So I guess just a, question, how are they gonna make payroll?
You know, the auditor's office has sent them repeated communications warning them about this.
Because insurance is one part of it, but, paying the employees, right? I mean,
There's a lot of.
I guess, John, do you,
a lot of
can you
problems.
elaborate on that, how the,
Sure. We did identify a transition date of July 1st. Our Board of Park Commissioners held a special meeting yesterday to pass the resolutions to appoint a fiscal officer, recognize our own depository, and change our bylaws to recognize what I just described. We will be awaiting the transfer of funds to our account in Middlefield Bank. As soon as that happens, we will do our best to ensure we pay our employees in time for payroll this Friday, so.
That's this
yeah,
Friday?
That's correct.
Good.
It's day-to-day, and it's awaiting our
Okay.
funds, obviously.
Okay.
We would be happy to work with the Board of County Commissioners on any type of written agreement to ensure we reimburse you and start looking at our healthcare options for the future.
I mean, I think just that it's being said on the record in the minutes here today, and that we're, memorializing with the resolution, I mean, I think that would be good, good enough as far as making sure it's on the record that we get paid back for that dollar amount.
Absolutely.
Just making sure that to clear the exact amount with you, right?
I don't, I can come back and get you that exact amount.
Okay.
So, in just a minute.
No, that's all right.
Just
You
like
don't
a
have to get
minute.
it, yeah.
I mean,
Adrian?
I think they would.
Did you have it written down?
Yeah, no, I'm not worried.
But I could pursue them for
Yeah.
money. I mean, it's
Right.
not. I mean, you'd have a.
Just so it's on
A
the
valid legal
record.
This is on the record. that-
Yeah.
And that was actually included in.
Okay.
So
okay.
the exact amount is $59,607.64. So 59607.64.
Okay.
Gary, you want to reread that, how this is going to work out then?
Yeah, let me see if I can reread my notes.
Just take your time, take your time.
Yeah.
So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board direct the auditor to pay the Park District's portion of the Sebco June health insurance premium payments out of the Commissioner's Contingency Fund 1001-031-00-918 to cover the shortfall. The shortfall occurred due to the inability to pay the Park District's portion from premium payments from their funds. The Park District will be billed for the total amount.
And that was the $59,607.64.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Spudler?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon?
Yes.
Mr. DeBoer?
Yes.
And then John.
Just a point of clarification, Adrian, I believe your number includes the employee component.
Yeah, that's why I thought that seemed high.
That seems a little high.
Is that the total?
You've added the two components.
That is
together.
that is the total that,
They will not reimburse for the Rotary Fund. The Rotary Fund we already possess. We're using their deducted monies from their employees' paychecks as part of the Rotary contribution.
oh, because I thought, well, I guess I was thinking we were going to have to pay the whole thing, that all that money was going to be sent back to them.
No, we already, the Rotary Fund's our account, so we don't have to turn that money over to them by law.
Okay, so the employees' deductions go directly into the Rotary Fund?
The employee deductions all get loaded up into the Rotary Fund, correct. And
Okay.
then we pay the employer portion out of the individual funds, one of which would have been
Probably
park
2/3
funds,
of the month.
which
Okay.
we no longer will have access to.
Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
aware that money had already gone into the Rotary Fund.
It does it
so-
Automatic.
every time there's a paycheck cut.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's populated regularly.
Yeah, our withholdings get dumped into, all our paycheck withholdings get dumped into the Rotary Fund.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what the mechanics of that.
Yeah, so once we withheld it from, I mean, the way I'm reading the law, obviously, listen, we were told July 1st, we found out at 1:30, I mean, I was at the office till 6:30 last night, trying to figure all this out, so.
We believe the number is closer to $53,992.64.
Yeah, that's what we had originally been talking about,
Okay.
that number, but we weren't sure what was actually going to have to be transferred, so, okay.
Yeah, our opinion is the Rotary Fund money, because we've grabbed it throughout the month it's been withheld from their employees, that's the county's money at this point.
Okay.
It's not funds subject to the Park District action that we would have to turn back over to them. That's our money that they contribute.
Okay,
So we'll just pay that out of Rotary, that's not part of this.
okay.
Can you give me that number again? Yeah. The 53,000.
$53,992.64.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion second, we voted?
You already-
Okay,
Yeah.
and just clarifying that
Yep,
dollar amount? Okay.
less the employee portion of the Rotary Fund, so it would
Yeah.
be the actual amount of $53,992.
Maybe making a motion to amend the amount,
Yeah,
and then,
okay. Motion to amend the amount for $53,992.64.
I'll second that.
Mr. Spudler?
Aye.
Mr. Lyon?
Aye.
Yes.
So John, so going forward now, so do you have health insurance in place for the employees going forward?
We're currently requesting that the Board of County Commissioners determine through your legal counsel and with the help of Jim that whether or not we can remain in your pool when on the Setco pool.
Mhm.
We are looking at our other options,
Mhm.
just in case. But to answer your question, we may not in the short term. So.
Okay, so short-term, Cobra would pick it up, is that right?
At this point,
Yeah,
we're going to have to COBRA certify all the Park
Yeah.
District employees.
the county's gonna, again, I don't want to turn the temperature up on this, but I'm a little irritated because I've been dealing with this since 1:30 yesterday. I mean, the reckless and irresponsible manner in which this transition was done by the park board is, first of all, they lied to us. They told us it'd be July 1st. It's yesterday. They don't even have health insurance lined up for their employees. I mean, it's not John's fault. I'm not sitting here pointing fingers at John either. I'm just saying, I'm beside myself. I know Chuck and I are worried about the employees. We're worried about them getting paid. We're trying to get the money over to their account. I mean, they didn't even have the account information to me until 9:30 this morning. So I've told Jerry, we're gonna COBRA serve all their employees. I'm sure that they're gonna love that.
That's an inconvenience.
And, because we have to do that by tomorrow, I think, by the end of the month. So we'll COBRA serve their employees. You know, Park, they've got to talk to their council. I suppose Park could just pay the COBRA premiums, you know, that'll buy them some time. But to flip the switch like this and not have payroll lined up and not have health insurance lined up for their employees it's an inexcusable dereliction by the park board. I don't know how else to say it, so.
And I'm not looking to like debate this and, you know, who's wrong, who's right, or whatever. You know, I'm just hearing, you know, I heard about this at the same time you did yesterday, that it was happening, but do you have phones and IT and computer and all that? Is that up and running, or?
We do not have telephones, we do not have networking, so we don't have access to internet.
And how did all that, I mean, how did that go away?
I believe it was the decision of the ADP board.
Mm-hmm.
If we went self-fiscal to terminate those services.
Okay. So as of right now, the Park District doesn't have, well, they don't have any money. They do have insurance. They don't have phones or IT. I mean,
we have 27 parks, so.
Yeah. That's a concern, you know. I mean, I don't know how it got to this point. You know, this has been something that I know the park board has been working on for a long time, correct?
That's correct. We started talking about it in January.
Yeah.
So, and there have been communications back and forth. And,
with,
you know, I too don't want to turn up the heat in Jim's words. You know, I've got a job to do. And,
sure.
And I respect the authority of the prosecutor and the auditor to do their job. I guess in our mind, and holding a special meeting, that the difference of 4 or 5 days in terms of June 28th versus July 1st, that we simply wouldn't, we would have had a better plan for transition.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
So when do you think you'll have phones and stuff?
When we receive our money, it will depend on the availability of our vendors, our third-party contractors. One of the things we did propose is working with the contractor that the ADP board currently works with. And so we would have been ready for that. And so that provision was not granted, but we hope to be able to work with those same vendors, those third-party contractors, Windstream, Black Box.
So Chuck,
we are fortunate that we do have IT on staff, head of IT department. So.
But nothing's on,
yeah.
Right? You don't have a network or a phone system.
We do not.
No. I mean, so I guess my question is, you know, Chuck, the townships, they contract with the county on IT, right? Some of them do, right? Was this ever a consideration of doing this with the park board or with the parks? You know, the same kind of arrangement.
Well, back in I believe it was March or April when the parks advised us that they were separating from the county. The ADP board considered that request and they voted unanimously to sever the supply of IT services contingent upon the separation of fiscal.
Huh.
The debate centered around the ability for us to understand what was being attached to the network. When we have purview into their financial operation, we see what technology is being purchased, so we can predict a potential threat to the system. With the parks, because of the size of the parks and having the volume different than townships, they have a lot of Wi-Fi servicing to the general public. Those are all potential sources of breach. So we are more conscious of entities like the parks, where they open up their network to a more risky environment.
Mm.
The board decided at that time, and we served notice to the park, that when you do flip this switch, it all will flip.
Even if they cleared those components with the board?
Well, what I would have hoped would have happened would be the gradual turning on of their own independent services. I mean, if in a perfect world, what I would have expected to happen is They bring up their phones independent of ADP. They bring up their email independent of ADP, and then they bring up their internet independent of ADP, and then they consider the switch.
I see.
That's what I would have recommended. That was what I was articulating in a series of communications with the parks. But, we didn't have a single point of contact with their IT center. There's a variety of different people. And, I was not privy to what they were putting in place. They did sign a contract with the same suppliers that the county uses. For example, Black Box, they have an ongoing contract which was certified by ADP around the April-May timeframe. We were under the impression that ADP's services through Black Box using the same vendor could be mimicked in some manner. Why that did not happen, I can't speak to.
That makes me, I was just sitting here thinking about another issue as far as, you were talking about the budgeting. Who is going to oversee the budgeting for the park district now? Will that still be, what's the check and balance? Or is it by Ohio Revised Code, the park can go off and be its complete separate own entity? Is that what I'm under?
Yeah, that's correct. There's a provision in Ohio Revised Code 1545. We can have our own fiscal officer. We hired a gentleman to do that job with good experience with two former state auditors.
Okay. So you'll get a lump sum of money maybe within the next day or so, close to about $9 million of tax levy dollars, correct? And will there be a review process by the county or say the auditor or the budget commission or?
You'll have a yearly state audit, just like.
Just by the state?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is this similar to the library board where they have their own?
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah, right. That would help. Interesting. Yeah. Well, let us know how this all transpires. I hopefully you can get this thing up and running quickly, because I would hate to see all these employees without either insurance or getting their paycheck.
I communicated with the treasurer's office during your meeting this morning. So as soon as I got the tax information from the park district at 9:30 this morning, during your meeting, I did communicate with the treasurer's office, and Ron's here. So we should have that transfer, the wire transfer of the $9 million plus early this afternoon.
Okay.
So they'll have their money. But, the phones,
But
they have all their equipment. I don't know why they didn't have it's just bewildering. They could have had a phone guy in there last week and gotten the phones
And they're
switched over.
I guess my thing is the communication with, with the IT department and with that transition, making sure that went smoothly. This is like, that's what it's, I'm hearing there wasn't a game plan or the communication wasn't there. And I don't know if the board has relayed that to you to tell you to do that or not, or, I'm not sure, but.
Tim, an hour after they severed, their employee came up to the treasurer's office and made a payment.
So they think that it's still the.
Well, we received their timesheets to do payroll on Friday after the severing. We received a purchase order we put into the New World system after the severing. So it's the right hand and the left hand are not in concert with each other.
Yeah. Did the board, not to speak freely, but did the board relay any of this on to you as far as what they're thinking of why they were doing this in such a hurry, or was it just, you think it was a mistake that they did this so early, or?
No, I believe it was, we didn't recognize that the difference of 4 to 5 days would perhaps impact the services of the county.
Okay. Like just like a drop dead, cut it off, the phones are off, the computers are off.
And our in-house IT department did make inquiries with the county IT department, and it was communicated that we wouldn't be allowed to do that because it was a security risk.
I see.
So,
Is there anything else, Jerry?
I do not have anything else.
Well, I guess the health insurance one is gonna be something that we'll have to review soon, right? I mean, if they're allowed to continue to contract through the county legally or not, Jim, I don't know.
Yeah, Laura and I started looking at that last night, so, because I don't know that the park board ever formally requested that from you guys. I mean, I think there had been inquiries, but again, you folks are just as surprised as we were yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard little bits and pieces over the last few months that this may be happening, or, I wasn't.
I don't know if legally you can supply it or not. Laura and I started getting into it last night, but I don't have an answer yet. I gotta check. And it might take a little, but I mean, we're good. We paid June. Again, we'll cover certain for July, so I don't think anybody's gonna lose their health insurance.
Right.
That'll buy us several months. So.
Not to keep belaboring this, but who is going to review the spending of the park board now? Is it just the board?
Yeah, it'll be the Board of Park Commissioners receiving a monthly financial statement as they always do.
And they'll see the
Yeah, that's correct.
all the
And-
expenditures.
And as Adrian said, we'll continue to be audited,
Okay.
much like the other 1545
Okay.
park districts around the state.
Okay, so this isn't uncommon, is what you're saying?
It's not. There are, in fact, I consulted with some of my peers to inquire how, and 5 of the 7 that I inquired are self-fiscal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With their own fiscal officer.
All right.
80% of the park districts in the state of Ohio utilize the county auditor and county treasurer as their fiscal agents.
Okay.
So,
And
I wouldn't
right,
call it usual, but.
Yeah, and I don't debate that, but of the ones I inquired with in Northeast Ohio, 5 of the 7 were
Okay.
their own fiscal officer.
And, can you give us the benefits or the pros or cons to doing this? What the catalyst to go this route was?
We believe in some way we'll be able to streamline paperwork, and so that was the discussion with other executive directors that I talked to.
Okay. Thanks. I guess let us know what the next steps are, right?
Before going.
Yeah. Just wanted to tell them that we have the groundbreaking today.
Yes. Work session, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, work session at 1 o'clock.
What else are you possibly breaking ground on?
I said I'm starting to get a collection of shovels.
Yeah. Which one did I miss?
Yeah.
This is the T-hanger project.
Oh, okay.
At the airport.
The new T-hangers,
Yeah.
Which is that's a great thing.
Another good project,
Yeah.
Yep. We've had a lot of groundbreakings in the last year, which, I think we all can
Definitely
be
set a record.
proud of. Yeah. Yep.
Makes you want to get to construction, right?
Right. Well, it's been some sorely needed updates, I think, and we're getting it on the right track. So that'll be at what, 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock
Yes.
today.
All right, perfect.
At the airport.
Perfect. All right.
Jim's gonna bring his own shovel. He's got to in his office.
Yeah. I said we got a collection of
I
them.
don't want to get that dirty.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, that one's kind of special.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Thank you.
I
don't understand that whole thing.
I need both of you, or all of you, to sign this. This one.